In the meantime, let's get more on the president's jobs plan. We're joined from Washington by Karen Tramontano. She's a former labor advisor to President Clinton, and she's currently CEO of Blue Star Strategies. Ms. Tramontano, welcome to Bottom Line. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you, Mark. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, the president has proposed increasing taxes for high wage earners as a way to help bring down the deficit. And today, as we mentioned, he's in Silicon Valley, home to many of the same people he says can afford to pay more in taxes. Why then go to Silicon Valley?
Well, Mark, I think it is very important that there is a balanced approach, and I think that's what the president is putting forward. He's put forward cuts, deficit reduction, but we're at a point in time in our economy where we really do need to drive job growth. We need to drive investment in the productive economy. Cutting right now would really hurt those people who can least afford it. And a balanced approach would be to derive some revenue from those people who can't afford it.
But would you grant that at least some spending cuts, some cuts are going to have to be enacted to get this under control?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think I think the president has proposed a number of spending cuts consistently, and again, it is a balance. You want to drive money into the productive economy. The president also has to be a cheerleader for confidence building, because those institutions, like the banks, have to lend again to businesses.
Right.
We need support for small businesses, where most of the job growth is going to come from, frankly.
No, the president did say at this event, we have headlines. He says that the U.S. tax code needs to be overhauled to lower the deficit. The last major overhaul of the tax code was 25 years ago when Ronald Reagan was president. The tax rate for capital gains and also some of the other rates, dividends and such, the wages, that was set at 28%. But since then, there's been some fluctuation. The rates are now at 15% for capital gains and dividends and as much as 35% for wages. Should investment income be taxed at the same rate as wages? And how do you reconcile what USC law professor Edward Kleinbart called a question of capital versus labor?
Well, I think, and I think economists may, differ on this, but my own point of view is, labor's productivity has increased exponentially through the years, and yet as a result of the high rate of taxes that the working and middle class pay, it hasn't fallen in line. They haven't reaped the benefits of their productivity in the economy. I think all economists can agree on that. So I do think, it would be a huge challenge to overhaul the tax code, but certainly an approach that really, for the working and middle class, results in their wages being worth more value to them, that is consistent with their productivity and the productivity gains that they have brought to the economy.
Well, you've heard some of the critics of the president's jobs plan. They say that this is class warfare. The Republican congressional leadership contending raising taxes hurts job creation because business owners and entrepreneurs who might be inclined to hire won't, because the tax burden on them is going to increase.
Well, I think the president's focus, where he's talking about increases in taxes, is on the very, very wealthy. But, the president's plan in the main has three components. One is another tax holiday for withholding taxes. And that's very good for workers. That's very good for the working class. It's not, it's not the most direct way to infuse money into the economy, but it's a good way, and it's a way that can be productive. Another component of his plan is to help state and local governments retain teachers, firefighters, police. The job loss in the economy right now is coming from the public sector. The states are really hurting, and the federal government should step in. And should help state and local governments retain our most valuable workers,
right,
our teachers. If we're ever going to turn this around, we need to invest in our teachers. The third component of his plan is an investment in the real economy, in infrastructure. And again, we have to put this in the context of what the president needs to also do is get bipartisan support.
Yeah.
And these proposals have been supported, as you know, Mark, by both Republicans and Democrats. So this isn't about class warfare. This is really about getting the economy going again for the people who work in the economy.
Well, in today's New York Times, Thomas Friedman wrote the following, quoting here. He said, "Most important, Mr. Obama is in charge. He's going to be held responsible by history for what happens, and therefore he needs to take the lead in getting the leaders of both parties back to the grand bargaining table." We have about a minute left. How should he get the leaders back?
Well, I think he's made a lot of inroads and approaches. You know, it's all about, relationships, kind compromise.
But, ma'am,
And
is there enough sense of urgency at this point, do you think?
Yes, I think there is. I don't think there's any member of Congress who cares about the American people and who really, truly cares about where we are headed,
right,
that doesn't understand that we are in an urgent situation. And I do have faith in our leaders of both parties, and I do think that they will, along with the president, put the country first, put partisan politics aside, and put the American people first. And the president is chief among them, and he does have to take the responsibility. And I think he has. I think he clearly has stepped up to the plate on this.
Karen Tramontano, former labor advisor to President Clinton, currently the CEO of Blue Star Strategies, joining us from Washington. Thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate it.